Welcome, everybody. This is Starting Out Bright, and I'm Noreen Savage. I'm so glad you're here. And just in case we haven't met before, I want to introduce myself, who I am and who I'm not. First of all, I am nobody official with Brightline Eating, but I've really enjoyed the program. And just to tell you a little bit, my background, 4 years ago in May, my friend Lori posted on her Facebook page a little snippet that said she lost 57 pounds with a program called Brightline Eating. And if anybody was interested, they could just give her a shout. So my fingers flew over to the messenger as fast as they could get there to find out the scoop from Lori. And she proceeded to tell me about a book by Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson called Brightline Eating. And in the book was described 4 lines, 4 bright lines you do not cross. No sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed in measured portions. And when my friend told me that was the program, I was sunk. I thought there is absolutely no way I could do anything as drastic at that. But where was I? I am still 5'2". I was 270 pounds. I was in excruciating pain in my knee. I was starting to use a cane, actually, to walk. My feet were swollen for about a year. I knew that I was pre-diabetic. I already had known that. I had sleep apnea, snoring, the works. Many times I wondered if I would wake up in the morning. And it was getting serious. And I had dieted for decades. So I let this set in me, but Lori and I went out for lunch. And after this lunch, she told me 2 things, Noreen. If you're going to do this, get the book and get into the online community. Now, at the time, she was talking about a group that she knew of, a private group, We Eat Bright with Lines. It's still going strong. There are many other groups, though, too. Starting Out Bright is associated with these Zoom chats. Michigan's Brightest is a private group. And of course, catering to Michigan folks, but we love everybody. And that was what brings Shelly and I together. And we'll get into that a little bit. But anyway, I got in the We Eat Bright with Lines group, and I just sat and watched transformation after transformation. As I said, I got started in May as far as finding out about the program. It took me till July to get truly started. And at that time, after watching and reading the stories and seeing the pictures then and now, I promised myself that if I lasted 1 year doing Brightline Eating, I would do what my friend Lori did. I would be brave and post on Facebook and let the world know what I did so that they could join me if they wish to. Well, I'm a Christian, and when the year was up, I was sitting in that chair behind me, wondering what I would post. Here I was. I had lost 56 pounds that first year. Lori beat me by 1. And I was trying to think of what I could do, and then God spoke to me and said, Noreen, you can do more than that. You can connect people. If only I could get people to tell their stories. The ones, I get choked up, the ones that inspired me so much. Wouldn't that be great? And we were in the time of Zoom, so it would be just perfect if I could just come on. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, is to encourage at least one person tonight, or those who might see the YouTube or listen to the podcast, and think, if I can just try for 1 day, if I can do 2 days and go from there. So here we are with a phenomenal guest again, and we got acquainted through Michigan Brightest. I want to introduce you to Shelly Lewis. Hi, Shelly.
Hello.
And you can go ahead and say hi, but go ahead.
Hi to everyone out there. We see some very familiar faces.
I know you have some friends out there.
I
And I know
do.
they're anxious to hear your story. And as you know, we got a chance to talk the other night, and it was just wonderful. There's so much to get to, but I don't want to forget, and so I'm putting it out front. The way that we got connected is that we're going to have a conference with Michigan's Brightest. Can you talk about that for just a quick second? Because I know you're on the planning committee.
Yes, I am. We are having our second conference on September 30th. It's a Saturday in Okemos, Michigan, which is right by Lansing. And everyone is welcome, whether you are in Brightline Eating or would just like to learn about it or just meet some other people who are trying their best to take care of themselves every day. We welcome everybody.
And it's going to be a fun event. There's actually going to be a clothing swap, which that perked my ears. That's going to be fun.
Right.
I've been
Yes.
honored to be asked to speak, and I know that you've got a couple other people. I know you're going to have some tables facilitating conversations. So it's going to be
Right.
really hands-on, not just listening, but being
Right.
involved with talking to people. And I just love the whole concept. I'm looking forward to it. So let's get talking about Shelly. So Shelly, as I mentioned, it's kind of startling, at least it was to me, to think about doing this lifestyle. What brought you in?
We were in COVID. We couldn't really be around people, but I had a friend and we would have what we called porch visits. And so I went to her house one day and she was eating this nice big salad. And I said, what are you eating? She told me, and I said, so what program? And she told me it was Brightline Eating. And she started to tell me about it. And I thought, well, I've tried everything else. Sure, I'm in too, so I said, I'll try it with you. So at that time, there was the 14-day challenge, and I signed up for that. And I think I got into about the fourth or fifth day, and they were starting a boot camp. And so I signed up for the boot camp and went from there, never looked back.
Which is just fascinating. And do you mind sharing what your higher weight was? Because I know you're in
Yes.
maintenance now.
I am. At one time, I weighed 252 pounds. And today, I weigh between 140 to 145.
And if anybody came in time for the slideshow, they saw the weight loss went down, like dropping like a rock. But here you are, maintenance, just within what, 5 pounds?
5 pounds. Yeah, I've been really blessed to keep that very steady.
And as we were talking, you had done all the things too.
Oh, yeah. Every single one of them. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so I thought, what the heck, right? But this time, the one piece that stood out was, and I did have some background with Overeaters Anonymous, but the one thing that stuck out was one day at a time, doing this one day at a time. And to think that I could give up sugar and flour for the rest of my life was just impossible. Yeah. And so I really, really just focused on one day at a time. And sometimes it was 1 hour at a time or 1 second at a time. But that is what I focused on. And I still, to this day, if people ask me, I could never do that. Don't you want this? And I say, I'm just doing this for today. It is just for today. Tomorrow might be totally different ballpark, but I'm just doing this for today. And usually people go, oh, okay, yeah, all right. And so I wake up in the morning and I recommit. I'm going to do this just for today.
Even now in maintenance, you still have the same attitude and just.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't ever want to go back. Never.
Well, where were you? I know you mentioned that you had some health issues the other night.
Oh, yeah. I was a diabetic. I was on 3 medications, including insulin. I have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, a lot of joint pain. lots of problems with breathing. I was taking some things to help with breathing. And once I started Brightline Eating, it was pretty quick that the medications the doses started to get lowered. And within 6 months, I was off of all the diabetic medications.
Wow.
And was only on about within a year, I was on just 2 medications instead of 9 plus. Just a small blood pressure medication and a small cholesterol dose. Just those kind of things runs in my family, so they're not unexpected. But yeah, I mean, that was unbelievable. I really did not believe that diabetes could be corrected with food. I really didn't believe that. So
yeah, if you went back, I'm sure that it would come back.
I'm sure it would.
That's got to give hope to many that they actually can reverse at least the symptoms, right?
Yes.
As Deb says here in the chat, food is medicine, and we're finding that out for sure. That absolutely it is medicine. And the sugar flour is the wrong kind of medicine because it's not really food, it doesn't seem like. So did you have any surprises that first year, or how long did it take you to get to maintenance? How long did it take to actually get the weight off?
I started on May 29th of 2020 and started maintenance on May 9th of 2021. And I lost 81 and a half pounds on Brightline Eating. And I had already lost some weight following another program that was it was pretty, focused on whole foods and good carbs and things, but included sugar substitutes and processed foods. And, but still, I made a little bit of leeway with that. So yeah, I was absolutely shocked at how quickly the weight came off. It was pretty unbelievable, to be honest.
And here you were in COVID. And so you're doing it pretty quietly.
Very quietly. I mean, I had not seen anybody when we came out of the COVID era. My neighbor next door talked to my husband, but did not say anything to me. And she later said to me, I really didn't know who you were.
Wow.
So yeah, it's, as people started to see me, they were pretty flabbergasted.
I can only imagine. Now, when we talked the other day, there was one thing, though, that was not really smooth sailing, that was concerning to you, because you had lost the weight pretty fast. And what was that?
I did. And I also lost my hair pretty quick. I mean, not all of it, but I definitely lost hair during the weight loss phase. I mean, I really, after showering, just had a lot of hair at the bottom of the drain. My hairdresser, once I started going back, commented on, how thin my hair had become, but it didn't have any bald spots or anything like that. And I did talk to my doctor as well. And she said that when you lose weight quickly like that, your body is really kind of in shock, and hair loss is quite common. So I didn't worry about it. I just trusted that over time it would correct itself. I did start taking a supplement that the doctor had recommended, and came back fine. It's doing great. So
now Deb is saying hair loss is common. Telogen, I'm not sure how to say that. Telogen effluvium is what it's called. Now, I do want to mention this because I've had really good luck with it. And I know that there are other protein powders, but I use Bulletproof. I've used it from before I was in BLE. And the reason for me was I had a different medical condition like 10 years ago, which was totally corrected. But my naturopath suggested that I use this for my joints, which was kind of a leftover. I was really like down. And so this was to strengthen my joints. And so I just kept on using it. I wasn't going to get off of that to get on BLE because,
Right.
that's one thing is in the book. One thing I really appreciate is Susan Pierce Thompson says to do your own research. Well, I had
Yes.
already done the research on this, that for me, this had helped me with the joints problems that I was having. And it also helps your skin and it also helps your hair. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to get rid of this just because of what, 40 calories or something it is? 70 calories in 2 scoops. I doubt if I even use 1 scoop in a day. So for 35 calories, I'm not going to mess around with taking a chance of
Right.
the
Yeah, you do
joints
have to, you have to use common sense. And if something is working for you, then, yeah.
Exactly. Just like, just because it's on the top of my head, common sense, like I know it was brought up like in the food lines, what is it?
Right.
Not vanilla milk. What is it? Almond milk?
Almond milk, yeah.
There's been this whole
Right.
big discussion about it. But now I've
Yes.
heard that it can be used as a condiment. Do you know?
Yes, 2 ounces can be used because prior to that, when they made the change, 8 ounces was considered a protein, but there was very little protein in it and very little calories,
Right.
and so, yeah, I'm really glad that they changed that.
So anyway, that's just, I wanted to throw that in because I knew that you had actually sought help for it. I mean, that tells me that it's kind of serious. And you
Yes.
did get a supplement that helped you. But again,
Mhm.
do your own research. That worked for me. And your hair looks beautiful, Shelly. So it came
Thank
back,
you.
but there is that situation. And I've seen it come up in the groups a lot that people are wondering what to do. And, you explained it perfectly that there's that shock that you can have
Right,
to your system. So anyway, how did you know to get in maintenance? Was it just a certain number on the scale or what was your trigger for that?
Well, it started that way, when you dream about that goal weight, as I started to get down, I started to get really hungry. I noticed that for sure. And I was getting very comfortable with my size, where I was, and really did not care to keep going, much further. So with the help of some very wonderful friends who are my lifelong Gideon Games girls, I had help with a couple of them, and she really helped me through it with my first ad, and of course, all the coaching calls that I had heard when people are talking about going into maintenance, how to begin. There's no right or wrong way with your first ad. You can, choose what you think is going to work best for you. And then, stick with that for at least a couple of weeks and evaluate it and then, continue to move forward. So really it was out of hunger. And so I started, my first ad was half a protein at breakfast. So,
that makes
that
sense.
worked out really good.
What have you worked up to now? I want to have hope.
I do a half of protein at breakfast and dinner. I do 12 ounces of vegetables at lunch and dinner, and I do a fruit at dinner.
That is really well-rounded, the meals. The only thing it sounds like you're not getting like an extra grain anywhere.
No, but part of that, I still think kind of stems out of the fear of the diabetes. And I know there really is not, there's tremendous support out there saying if you're eating the right carbohydrates, you do not have to worry about your blood sugar. But I have come to love my vegetables so much. that 10 ounces just was not enough. I felt it was enough, but I felt like that could be an additional ad that I would enjoy. So that's the direction I went.
It was a
And
mention here
that
too
worked.
that you could also maybe add fat.
Yes, I actually did that at one time. I have done a lot of different ads and then changed back and tried other things. But I did have an additional ad of fat at one time at lunch. This is where I've landed, but I've tried all of them. Green, I've tried the extra fat, and this just really works well for me.
Well, you're doing something right, because it's like, what, 8 months now? That's quite a bit.
I've been on maintenance for almost 2.5 years.
Oh, for some reason I was thinking maybe just that
No.
one
Oh,
graph.
I just showed you the one. That's because that only did 12 months. But
Okay.
no, I've been on maintenance since May 9th of 2021.
Wow.
So 2 years and a few months. Yeah. So that's why I say there's been a lot of changes. It's that whole thing of what serves you best, and sometimes I change because, I get curious about changes. I did a coaching call with Dr. Joy once during office hours, and she was great. And, we both talked about getting curious when we make a change and why we make a change. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
I did not expect to do this, but in the last couple of weeks, I've been very hungry to the point of like, I'm going to fall off the plan. And I added 2 ounces of vegetables at lunch.
Yeah.
It has helped so much. And I know there's a nutritarian plan that has way
Yes,
more
I'm familiar with it.
vegetables than what
Yes.
that I'm eating. And I thought, you know what? Again, that is, I'm not really a calorie counter, but if you look at the math, 2 ounces of vegetables is not going to add a lot, but it might save you from going off if you're hungry.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so what have been the things that have really helped you? I mean, this is a long time now. What have really helped you stay with the program, stay in maintenance? And I know that people watch what you're doing, Shelly. Like they're like, wow, you are a rock star.
I don't know about that.
Tell us all the things.
Well, I will tell you, I think one of the greatest parts of Brightline Eating is the community, the bond that I have found with the Gideon Games group. We have a Gideon Games group that I have been together with for almost 2 years. And we actually got to meet in person this last May, and it was just unbelievably wonderful. I've had wonderful mastermind groups. I have a mastermind group right now. I've been a part of a book club. Oh gosh, I forget her name. We met on Fridays for her books. But just the community is just unbelievable. And the support on Facebook, the groups, starting out bright, and the no sugar, no flour, the recipes, I just feel like I have so much support. And that was the piece that I was always missing on everything I've ever tried in my life. I can lose weight. I could always lose weight, but I could never keep it off.
Right.
And this was the missing link. The portions, the bounded portions, the lines, the boundaries, and it's just having other people, like-minded people that I can talk to, I can share ideas with, I can pop a question on Facebook, I can talk to one of my mastermind members or my Gideon Game girls, and I can ask questions, and I can't imagine doing it on my own. So that was the piece that was missing.
And it's so interesting. Oh, I love this. Deb says community is the 5th line.
Yes.
That is really a great thought there. And Elizabeth goes, I agree. I've never been involved in another group that is as supported as the BLE and the affiliate groups. You know,
Yes.
and I want to make the point that you got started during COVID. We were all
I did.
sequestered, we were all sitting alone, but yet we were not. We had
But you know
huge
what? You're
community.
right. We were not. But what was kind of a mixed bag blessing, I guess you could call it, I couldn't go out to eat. I couldn't, I couldn't go anywhere. So I had the time to cook. I'm retired. So I started looking at all those recipes and trying all the different things. And so in a small way, it was kind of a good time to begin something new. And this will be for the rest of my life.
And just in case anybody's really wondering, when you're talking about Gideon games and stuff, I just want to mention you are in the Brightline Eating official group,
Yes.
which has an official Gideon games. It's a game where really it's 90 days, 10 people against 10 people, and it's who can stay the brightest the longest. You get a check mark, I think, for every day. I was in an unofficial group, and that was amazing because of the friendships that were formed.
Absolutely.
In the group.
I just can't imagine my life without all these ladies in my life. My mastermind group, gosh, one of the ladies I've been with, a couple of them I've been with for a year and a half. I mean, they are just, can't imagine my life without them.
And now, is the book group also a mastermind, or is that a private?
No, the book group is from, I want to say, her name is Yvonka.
I mean, is it open to other people, or if it's private?
You know what? I'm not positive.
Okay,
I'm really, I'm not sure, but it's just another piece for me that has been another good connection.
Absolutely. You said that the other day. You said your number one strategy. Now, this is beyond circling yourself with people. Was on the line of preparation.
Yes.
We need all the things.
Plan, prep, plan, prepare. I mean, I do spend, again, I'm blessed. I'm retired. I have time to take care of myself, which I didn't always do. And I'm finding that really you need to take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And I really understand that now. So this is my kind of part-time job of taking care of myself. I always make sure that I have plenty of vegetables prepped in the refrigerator. I'll do a lot of them in one day. Sometimes I will use some of the cookbooks, the batch cooking cookbooks, or just double or triple a recipe and make several of the same thing. I'm lucky my husband will eat anything I cook. We do eat separate breakfasts and lunches, but he does eat whatever I cook for dinner, and he doesn't hardly complain about it. But so that's a good thing too.
Which leads me to another thing. Like when somebody what is your advice when someone has someone who is not eating this way in the house, and you're preparing the food for the
Well, I'm going to tell you that when I started, I said to myself, I have to keep my eyes on my own plate. I have to take care of me because my husband is a sugarholic. He eats desserts at every meal. I have grandkids. They don't eat the same foods that I eat, although they do eat some of it. And, certainly we're going to have parties and outings and vacations. And so I just learned to keep my eyes on my own plate and always be prepared. I try to, if I'm going somewhere, I try to ask questions if I can find out what's going to be served, if there's going to be food. If I can't find out, a lot of times I will just shove a couple ounces of nuts in my purse with an apple and just, it's like, okay, well, at least I'll have something, to be prepared for. But so I do a lot of food prep and a lot of planning and questioning and trying to get as much information as I can.
And, from someone who might be listening to this and thinking, that is not my bag. Did it come all at once? Or did you like,
no.
like
Mm-mm.
you had
No.
the slow ride up to, I mean, because I know for me, I was probably a year in before I made the shift from just writing it down the night before to literally packing my
Mm-hmm.
breakfast and lunch if I was going to
Right.
work. I mean, like it wasn't enough to just write it down for me. It was a total shift to start packing things. Now I don't
Oh,
for dinner,
that's true.
but it
Yeah.
has
No,
really
I wrote down my food religiously. I mean, when I throughout my entire weight loss phase and through probably the first year of maintenance, that was a tool that really served me well. I didn't always prep ahead, but I had the ingredients and I knew what I was making. Again, going back to the fact that I do have some time to cook daily.
but now
But then I started to, was that?
what do you cook? You said that you always have
Oh,
vegetables
oh
ready.
my gosh. I just love our community of cooks out there. I mean, Natalie All, I started with her cookbooks. One of the things I probably ate probably most mornings at the beginning was her banana nut tops. So that became a favorite breakfast of mine. But then I ordered a cookbook from her. So I started to get other ideas. And then I found some websites on Facebook. Um, there's a lot on Pinterest. I became more familiar with Lori, um,
Lundgren,
Lori
Lori
with
Lundgren.
our Tasty, yes, right, with Tasty Freedom. Got her cookbook. I help get Healthy Grandma. Um, there's several
There's
others.
Deb Babcock right
No,
here.
Deb, that's right. Thank you, Deb. Yes.
Nicole
I made
DeFalsis,
quite a few of yours. Yes.
Deanna Lay. I mean, that's
Yes, she
who has
puts,
the
yep,
no sugar, no flour.
right,
I'm sure I'm missing
right.
somebody.
Oh, I'm sure we are. There's one I'm trying to think of, but um, they were a blessing to me. One thing that really, too, for someone who's just starting out, really not sure where to go to, Lori Lundgren has the food plans that you can actually purchase from her if you have her cookbook, and she like lays out an entire week of menus from the grocery list to when to prep things, how to prep things, just so easy. And then Natalie all came out with a batch cooking, and she just came out with volume 2. I just got that. So I think that's really kind of how I started getting into the batch cooking is when people were starting to talk more about it,
Right.
batch cooking, prepping. Because at first, I don't think it was really that big of a topic, but it became a bigger part.
I think
And I'm
that there
glad to
were
hear that.
some rock stars, you mentioned Natalie, but there were others. And once you do it a few times, and, for some, it's what we call the bakes, like they look like
Sure.
muffins or they look like
Yeah.
cookies, whatever, but
Right.
we call them bakes. And they're all Brightline Eating worthy.
Right. Yep.
But when you find you can start freezing things, or you can make
Yes.
2 or 3 or 4 or 5 ahead of time.
Yes.
And then you realize this piece that you have, like, wow, this is pretty easy when you have it all set.
Yes. And those casseroles that are in their cookbooks, you know, I purchased some, really nice little casserole dishes at Lori's recommendation. And I can make 3 or 4 little casseroles and throw them in the fridge, throw them in the freezer. It just makes I'm telling you, before I would get into trouble with fast food. I, just wouldn't want to cook. Now I have things in the freezer or I have things in the refrigerator and I can come home and have a meal put together in 10 minutes or less.
Now you said a
So,
little bit about like, bringing a few nuts and an apple, but I
mhm.
know that you have done more than that when you're traveling. What do
Oh,
you,
yes.
what do you do for your traveling? Because you've
Well,
got
the
quite
first
the
thing we
system.
did, well, when we actually, my daughter got married during COVID, and our first trip was in October of 2020. And she got married, and we invested in a cooler that can be plugged into the car and plugged into the hotel room. Best investment I ever made, but you have to do your research because there's a lot out there, and you really want to make sure that you do, get a good one. But so before we left, I packed, you know, 3 or 4 days of breakfast, lunches, and then we would only have to eat out like once a day. But sometimes we couldn't even find a restaurant that was open. So I also invested in a hot plate, and we had a microwave, and I did some things like the tasty bites. And I would buy a bag of frozen vegetables and open up a bag of tasty bites and add some more vegetables to it. And that's a full meal because that was protein, fat, and your vegetables. So it was things like that, cans of vegetable soup, the Annie's brand. So I brought rice cakes. I brought my peanut butter. We bought fruit along the way. We bought fresh salad along the way. And it's actually pretty easy to do. I didn't ever think it would be, but it's not too hard.
Well, I've
Absolutely.
been surprised myself. We don't travel a lot, but I would pack for myself, and my husband was fine with it too. Because I'm
Yeah,
like, we can stop for you. And he's like, no, this is fine.
yeah,
He might have something additional, and that's perfectly
sure,
fine with me.
sure.
But I want to ask you more about this cooler. Does it
Yeah.
just keep it cold without
Oh,
ice?
yeah.
What?
You, it plugs into your car and keeps it cool. It can also heat, so it's a heat or
Oh,
cool, but I
wow.
always used it for cool. And then when we would go onto the hotel, it plugs right into the wall. So now I basically have my refrigerator with me.
Man, and does it go
So it
on
was
wheels or
great. And as
something?
long as
Or
we had a microwave, I was all set.
wow.
So
And I've talked with people. In fact, Lori Lundgren, she is the pro at stopping at quick stops, and they have
yes,
microwaves there. It's
I
like if you
saw
ask,
her
they will let you.
post. I
Um,
did not know that. I learned from her.
Someone just asked here, Elizabeth, do you know the brand of that cooler?
Oh gosh, I want to say something like Cool Craft. It
Okay.
was on Amazon. I know it was a couple $100s, and I liked it because it was more boxy. So it held more.
Okay.
You got to be careful. Some of them will kind of like narrow at the bottom, or this said it would hold like so many liters, 2 liter bottles. So I could kind of figure out the space, and it does hold a lot. So it was
That
perfect.
sounds like quite the investment. Did you make other investments of any kind of I don't know, cooking gadgets or
Oh yeah, yeah. I have. I've invested in some really nice little casserole dishes. I've invested in some of the silicone 6-inch round and 4-inch round baking pans, and um, some of the muffin containers or the pans. But yeah, I did
you know what I'm
along the
really
way.
liking these days because I do make a lot of bakes of muffins. And the smaller ones, because I do bake for like our family members. It's kind of like parting gifts when they come over, and the grandchildren
Nice.
like the little muffins. But um, I've now really gone back to liners in a big muffin pan and really enjoy that. I don't know
The
why.
paper liners.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a simple thing. Jennifer here says air fryer.
Oh yes, definitely. I
Is
use
there
my air fryer a lot.
okay?
I do. Yeah, I
Silicone
roast a
liners.
lot of vegetables in there, and yeah, I like the air fryer.
Yeah, now Deb, she's now doing Epicure, and I know that she's got even a silicone, what is the thing? Like a donut, kind of can make a donut or bagel. So that's
I,
kind of a different silicone thing.
I think I did get a Pampered Chef donut pan. As a matter of fact, I've had it for about a year, and I just made a recipe and put it in that pan. As a matter of fact, they're in my refrigerator for my breakfast for tomorrow.
That's
So
fantastic. You know, but not everything just is great all the time. And I know that one of the vlogs that you and I agreed on that was very impactful was the one on intermittent reinforcement. Can you talk about
yes,
that just a little bit?
yes, I can. You know, we all get our mind speaking to us and trying to convince us that it would be great to soothe ourselves with some food, and I'm obviously trying not to do that. And Susan Pierce Thompson came out with a vlog, but actually I think it was in her boot camp. Well, I know it was in something somewhere. I think it was the boot camp. Anyway, so what she says is that it's like if you break and you have something and you've been, your mind's been telling you, oh yeah, let's do that, let's do that. And you do, and you give into it. Well, your brain says, yay. And then, it tries it again. Maybe another week or two down the line, it does the same thing and keeps bugging you. And it's going like, can I have that? When are we going to have that? When are we going to do that? It never stops. You get that chatter, and so then if you keep breaking, your mind just does not sit still. So I listened to her blog, and that's the way she described it. Of course, those are my own words. She's going to give you the scientific part to it, but it really made a lot of sense to me. And so when I really had a lot of food chatter, I would listen to that over and over and over again. And I really, really believe in it. And so it really helped me to stay bright.
Yeah, it only takes going off one time to realize,
Oh,
oh, I'm back to where I was. Like,
yeah. And
whether you call yourself a food addict, compulsive eater,
yeah,
just have a problem with
whatever.
whatever, but you can
Yeah,
get the illusion because things are going so well. Actually, they seem so easy to like now goof
sometimes. Yeah.
off a little bit, and then you realize, oh,
Right,
wait, I'm really
right.
driven to my old habits.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That little parent in me that's saying, you deserve that. It wouldn't hurt, Or I like to, I am a big people pleaser. And so, people say, oh, come on, I made this for you. You got to try this, and I, you know,
You have kind of
learn
those
to say
parts
no.
going on. And I know
A
we
lot
talked
of
about
parts.
parts work a little bit. And where do you
Sure.
stand with that? Where do you explore that a little bit?
I do, and I have. Not at first. I would say really during my weight loss phase, I did not really get a lot of exposure. I think there's a lot more now in Brightline Eating. There's a lot more conversation about it. And of course, I did take the course Grit by Everett Constantine. And the first time I went through it, um, I think I didn't hear a lot of it. I maybe wasn't ready for it. But then SBT came out with her Resume book, and there was some parts work in that. And I went, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. And so that led me back to Grit again. And then of course in Boot Camp 2.0, there is a whole another part there that is really, really good about the resistance that we might experience. So yeah, I kind of realized I've got some really strong inner critic parts to me that one always telling me I have to be perfect, And I think that's why I fell off of so many diets, because, you'd have a break and you go, what the hell, that what the hell effect. And, so when I started thinking about that, I realized that maybe at some point that it was very important for me to be not perfect, but to strive to achieve and to do what I could do. I mean, I'm sure it served its purpose, but I don't have to be perfect anymore. I'm good enough. What I do is good enough. And so I use a technique that Everett really talks about, the BFF. It's called breathe, feel your body, find your feet or your seat. And I do that a lot. If I start to feel, anxious or nervous or scared or, anything, guilt, whatever, I try not to get defensive about it. I try to take a breath, take a nice deep breath, sometimes several. Try to just shut my eyes and listen to my body. Try to feel what it is that my body is trying to feel, what kind of emotion or what kind of feeling is there. I'm trying to recognize it. I'm not great at it, but I'm trying to, so then I can get back to that centered self and feel more calm and then get curious about why I might be feeling the way that I'm feeling. So that's kind of where I am with the parts work, just very beginning stages.
That's got to feel really good on the other end of that versus the old way of like, I'm just going to go find some food.
Well, that's precisely it. I mean, the indulger part of me would say, oh, you're feeling upset? Yeah, let's go soothe, let's go to the food, because that's what I did. And, I'm realizing, that those parts were there. They served their purpose. They helped me through whatever, but I don't need to indulge anymore. And I don't need to, I now, I'm a grown up and I have more strategies and I have a community and I have a plan. And so I can, work. It just helps me to calm down. And then, as my kids will tell you, I was kind of a screaming Mimi at some point in my life, might have screamed once or twice too many, but I don't do that much. My grandchildren now get the benefit of a much calmer Mimi than I was as a mom. But, that's really because of this program. I'm just a happier person and I could never go back.
I don't think you can just change one thing. We evolved. The question here from Deb. So if you're upset and you used to use food for comfort, what do you do now? And you do this BFF?
I do the breathing. I try to, another strategy that I use besides trying to breathe, trying to feel what I'm feeling. I also found that if I set a timer for about 10 or 15 minutes, amazing what 10 minutes can feel like after you've gotten really worked up or nervous or excited or nervous. It's those feelings, those intense feelings, they really don't last that long. If you can ride them out and then kind of think about them and calm down in 10 or 15 minutes, it's really amazing, your outlook.
Wow. There are a lot of things you can do for 10 minutes to occupy your mind. I mean, and one of the least of which is the least of which, it's not the least. It's reaching out to your community. And I know that may sound like really difficult right now if you're brand new. But I remember even in those early days with We Eat Right with Lines, I remember one time I was early on. I had made the commitment, I'm doing this, and I had said, I'm going to a wedding. I just want to what they were calling bookend.
Yes. Oh,
I
yes.
want to bookend. I learned what
Yes.
that meant, like the beginning, telling somebody, and at the end, I'm going to tell
Yes.
you how it went. And,
Yes.
you know, can anybody be my buddy tonight? And several
Yes.
people said, yeah, I'll be right here. And
Yeah.
that actually made a huge difference for
Yes.
me.
I
So
have had a lot of buddies through uh my term here with Brightline Eating. Lots of buddies. Hi, Roxy. Haven't seen you for a while.
I just looked at the
Yeah.
time. I just looked at the time and we're running out. And I have a couple more questions. The first is this, Shelly. You are in maintenance 2.5 years. This
Yes.
is incredible. From a high of 250 pounds to now being in maintenance, living in your right size body. What are some of the non-scale victories that you've experienced?
The number one non-scale victory is the way I can move now. I can get up and down off of the floor. I can run after my granddaughter as she's learning to ride her bike. I can play with the kids. I can bike ride. I can walk. I even throw in little bits of jogging with my walk now just to raise my heart rate so I can get some. I use my Fitbit, what's this on, to get some steps and to get some exercise in. But movement is number one, and my breathing is so improved. I did have a doctor one time tell me, when you've got all that weight on your diaphragm, that can kind of affect your breathing too, And I think that probably was part of my breathing. I have a lot of allergies, and so I can have some breathing things, but that extra weight. But just really being able to move. And I'll tell you one thing, the probably the biggest, I don't know, happiness one time was, it was a couple of things. One, going to my clothes season to season, year to year, and they still fit.
Amazing.
I've had clothing ranging from size 24 to 8 and everywhere in between. And so now it's a consistent size generally. That's just, I love it. So that's one. And then the other thing, and I know this is really going to sound funny, but I got to, I don't know, it was around 170 pounds, 175. And all of a sudden I could start feeling bones, like my rib bones and my hip bones and my elbows and my knee bones. I really have bones. And I think I forgot that I had bones underneath everything. It was I can remember I was with a mastermind group, and I can remember doing a Marco Polo and saying, I found my bones. It was just so exciting. Angie, I think you guys, if you ever listen to this, but I did. It was very exciting. So just movement and that medication.
The medication, not being diabetic anymore,
Yes.
the high cholesterol, all those
I
things.
want to be here for my kids and my grandkids for as long as I can be here.
Well,
and now I think I have a chance.
You're giving it your best shot, that's for sure. Wow.
I am giving it my best chance.
So here we are, Shelly, the last question, and this is for the one who is listening and is really maybe where you were. What would you say to them about giving this a shot and starting Brightline Eating?
Well, I tell you what, I would really say to someone, and I know this is, a cliche, but what have you got to lose? I mean, try it for one day. It's, utterly amazing. The walking into a place and you don't feel uncomfortable. You don't feel eyes going on you because you're heavy, and there is such a peace to this program and to this way of life. It becomes very automatic, but it does take time. You do have to invest in it, but it is so worth it. There is just the support that you will receive in the kindest community. Every Facebook group, whether it be linked with BLE or not, there's always that first rule is we're kind. We uplift people. Unbelievable. You'll be amazed at the support that you can receive for anything. You can ask any kind of question along the way. There's not another program out there like where you can immediately ask a question and get someone to respond to you or send you in the right direction.
Yes, I totally agree.
And for maintenance, I know maintenance may be a long way off for some people, but if you're like me, you've probably done lots of different diets and you've lost weight, but staying there is a challenge. So you'll get the support that you need here.
Do you feel like staying there now, though, is a challenge? Or do you feel like it's sustainable?
I think it's always a challenge, but I have tools and I have community.
Yeah.
And so, there are always going to be challenges. I don't care how long you're on here, you're going to have challenges, but that's why we keep reading and we keep learning and we keep discussing and talking, and because we're never going to know it all, things are going to change. And so I know how to do that.
I see in the comments, Deb says there's solace in the science. It works.
Yes.
And another, Tashana says, love your honesty. It will always be a challenge, but we have tools.
Right. I'll tell you what.
The beauty part, too, is like all these other diets we went on, it was left to us to navigate.
Yes. I thought there was something wrong with me, to be honest with you. I did. I thought, how can I be a professional? I was a teacher. How can I have 2 degrees, a long-term marriage, raise children, grandchildren, and not be able to lose weight and keep it off? What is wrong with me?
Right.
And then when I read the book, it was like, I was just going, oh my gosh, there's a reason for this.
Yeah.
And it brought me a lot of peace, to be honest with you, to find that out. So
it did.
Read the book. Yeah.
But here we are, Shelly. It is the end. But we will see each other personally in a few weeks at the Michigan conference. And again, opening it up and opening people up to either go to Starting Out Bright or Michigan's Brightest to find out more about the conference, September 30th. We'll see you there and many of the Michigan friends and maybe some from other states too. But I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us tonight. It's a lot of information here. Do you have any other last thoughts before we close?
Well, I just want to say thank you to you because, again, this community is what makes this so workable. And it's people like you and all our cooks out there and all our coaches and all our SPT, obviously. It just, I just can't say enough good things about Brightline Eating.
We all have
no matter what way you approach it, whether it be in the actual community or through the other support groups.
Yeah.
Read the book and get the science and
just follow the fabulous plan one day at a time, like you said.
The fabulous plan, yes.
Well, thank you, Shelly. And I'm going to close as I do each week. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
So, Shelly, how would you like to play 3 Question Thursday?
Oh, sure.
Okay. 3-question Thursday. And the question I have for you, when you lost the weight, was it, you're talking about all these sizes, 24, 22, all these. Did it ever hit you like you really couldn't view yourself like who you really were? Did you have any body dysmorphia?
And yes, the answer is yes, and I still do. I don't think I saw myself as large as I was, and I don't really think I see myself at this right size as best as I should. If it wasn't for looking at the size label, I have a hard time believing where I'm at. And I have a lot of skin, a lot of loose skin, and I'm 60, almost 66 years old. I've lost it I wish I could have done this when I was younger. I didn't, but so I have a lot of loose skin hanging around. And so clothes is my best friend.
Clothes is your best friend.
Yeah, but I try to be thankful. Somewhere someone said you should thank your body daily. Like you should go through your thank you for my head, thank you for my ears, thank you for my chin, thank you for my teeth, and when you do that, you realize the importance of all your organs and all your body parts and what they're doing for you. So I try to look at that.
Absolutely. You mentioned the book club. Do you have a favorite book? I mean, I know you mentioned Resume that you've read.
Yes.
And of course, the Brightline Eating book. Are there any other inspirational or just informational books that you like?
Yeah. No Bad Parts is a very good one. The Inner Critic. Let's see. It's not, I'd have to go get the book to get the full title. That is a very good one. And right now I'm reading a book and it's called It's Not Always Depression. And so those are the books. But honestly, I really did like the Resume book a lot. I liked her explanation of parts. It was simplified and there were a lot of questions that you could answer, just check off. So it was real simple to do to kind of think about it. But those, and then I use a lot of daily readers. I'm a Christian, so I like my daily readers with my prayers. I find those very helpful.
That's great. Now I want to ask you one prepping question because you've got to have a favorite thing that you make that you actually, I like to do this like quite often. What is that? And
I take a 2-pound bag of organic carrots and slice them kind of like you would fries. And I put them in a bag with some seasonings. You can't ask me what the seasonings are because when my seasons get low, I dump them all together. So I never know what kind of season I'm going to have in it. But they always come out fabulous. I bake them in the oven at 425 degrees for 20 minutes. So that I just always have that in my refrigerator. And I also do rutabaga the same way. I never tasted a rutabaga in my life, but so it's mostly my vegetables. I mean, I almost always have cooked broccoli or cauliflower because and then I always have beans, and I always have tofu, and I always have meat, peanut butter. I always have protein laying around. So it's a fast meal. I do a lot of hummus in my salads with some balsamic vinaigrette or vinegar over it. And then, so I make big, huge salads, throw in some tofu or throw in some tempeh or beans or chicken or whatever my protein is, and mix my hummus with some balsamic vinegar, and there's my whole meal, and it's so simple. I keep a lot of salad things prepped in the refrigerator. Bags of salad that are ready to go.
I have a specific question about the carrots.
Okay.
So Elizabeth wants to know, so nothing but carrots and the spice?
And then I will take the spray oil. I would put them all in a big baggie
Okay.
and a few squirts of spray, toss them in the bag with the spices and a little bit of spray. I'm telling you, they cook up beautiful. You
And
don't
so it's
need a lot of
400
fat.
degrees at how long?
425 for 20 minutes.
425 for 20
For
minutes.
20 minutes.
And those are cut up carrots with a little
Yep.
bit of spray and a little bit of spice with
Yep.
mix them all, whatever, probably
Yep.
dill or whatever.
Whatever spices you want. I can see some of my ladies up there are laughing because we are always talking about prepping our food, and we're always talking about how we cook stuff and what we do. And I see you, Susie.
So this is fourth question.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Because I have to ask, where are you on the susceptibility scale?
When I started, I was a 10, no doubt about it. I have not binged. I was a binger, and I have not binged since May 29th of 2020.
Nice.
So I am a 10. There is just no doubt about that at all. And before, SBT didn't recommend that you ever take it again. And then now I've seen a little bit where it says, to take it again and, look at it. So I did take it again. And I think I'm more now down like to a 2 or 3.
Wow.
So, I mean, I just don't really care to eat the junk. It is in front of me. My husband eats it every day in front of me, and we go to places, there's not my food, and I'm pretty good about just walking away from it.
So the question is,
but it's only for today.
So, and the question someone's asking, so over time, do you think you can have BLE foods you couldn't before?
I will never have sugar or flour.
So that's not really what you mean as far as susceptibility. You mean maybe like your brain has healed somewhat as far as the constant craving, the constant chatter, need of binging.
Yes. And seeing that not my food and really wanting it. I don't even want it anymore.
You might have trained yourself too with keeping your eyes on your own plate for so long. It first might have been difficult, but the habit got you fortified, strengthened up, really, almost a hardening of like I can do.
Well, it kind of is a hardening, and I knew that was going to have to be. I said I can't. It is not somebody else's responsibility for what I put on my plate. It is my responsibility for what I put on my plate. So eyes on my own plate, and that's where it has to stay.
Well, Shelly, it's been such a delight to get to know you. Thank you so much again for sharing your story, for the great information, and for playing 5 Question Thursday.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to meet you.
Same here. Thanks so much. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Hey, bro.